Good evening, guys. If you're anything like me, you are very excited for Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, later this week. Maybe unlike me, or maybe some of you, there's things I'm a little apprehensive and anxious for the movie, and that apprehension largely comes from the critical and fan reaction to The Last Jedi. So before the movie drops later this week, I just kind of wanted to talk about The Last Jedi, why I personally really liked it, and how and why the reception of that movie, I think, greatly is going to influence the product we get in theaters this December for The Rise of Skywalker. Like I said, I really, really liked The Last Jedi and was surprised. I kind of initially when so many people were so vehemently didn't like it. And I kind of listened to the reasons they gave and the things that other people have said about it and reasons why it didn't work for them. So I kind of wanted to address some of those bigger points of what didn't work for a lot of people, why they did work for me and why I still liked it, and again ultimately lead up to a discussion of why the big backlash against the movie The Last Jedi, why I think that's largely has influenced how Rise of Skywalker is getting made and what we'll see in theaters. First big thing was Snoke. A lot of people really, really upset that he was killed off seemingly randomly and really quickly in The Last Jedi without a lot of fanfare. A lot of people wanted to know more about him, his backstory, where he came from. I didn't really give a shit about any of that. To me, he was the guy in the big chair who talked about power and controlling things. He's just a very simple, one-dimensional villain who ultimately was an obstacle. Had he lived, most of us could probably tell already how Rise of Skywalker is going to end. It's going to be a big fight in a throne room, probably, of Rey versus Snoke. Rey is going to win, more likely than not, with the help of Kylo, who also very possibly sacrifices himself to help Rey defeat Snoke. And then you know how the movie ends 2 years ago, after Last Jedi's over. Okay, you're like, Snoke's alive. This trilogy is kind of its own self-contained thing. They got to get rid of him. So you know he's going to lose. He's going to die in this next one. So with him out of the way early, I think it's less predictable. I think it's more fun. It's going to be more of a surprise, and there's all these possibilities for the story to go in. And I'm much more excited about that rather than sitting in the theater going, "This is cool," but I know towards the end of the runtime, we're just going to get our big throne room fight where Snoke definitely is going to die. They got rid of him. We don't know where it's going to go, where it's a little less predictable, and I'm very excited about that. Second big thing that a lot of people were about was probably Rey's parents and them turning out to not be anyone important. Again, not trying to be contrarian. I liked this a lot more than had she been a Kenobi, Solo, Skywalker, whatever. To me, it creates more of a dichotomy with Kylo Ren, who has these two hero status parents, Han and Leia, who, again, legends of the rebellion, and they have this son who's supposed to be like the golden child, and he falls to evil, versus this girl who comes from nothing, who is our new Jedi hero. I think that creates more contrast, and it's a more interesting parallel. And on top of that, so the Solos and Skywalkers, Rey being a Kenobi, Obi-Wan's not in these movies. I love Obi-Wan, but he's not really part of this story. Her being a Kenobi, apart from maybe a cool Easter egg, it doesn't really add much to this. And I think her being Luke's kid through some contrivance, or because Luke had an affair that we've never seen, or a love interest that we've never seen. Again, he had Mara Jade in Extended Universe. As far as we know, she's gone. In the context of these movies, Luke has never had a girlfriend or wife or anything, and it'd be very out of left field or weird for him to have a kid. So just all these possibilities either seem just wildly implausible, or even if she is the kid of someone important, it doesn't really sound like it would add that much versus having her, again, just be this direct foil to Kylo. And that's something I really liked. I thought it was a cool reveal that did not change on the repeat viewings in the theater, and that's something that I enjoyed. It's fine if you didn't and you were excited for her to be a Kenobi or a Solo or a Skywalker. I'm sorry, but I have a feeling that might get retconned in Rise of Skywalker anyway. So another last kind of big point on things I liked about The Last Jedi that I heard a lot of people didn't like was how Luke was handled. A lot of people were very surprised that Luke could be so pessimistic and down in the dumps. To me, given the setup and the story, that was just a very human and kind of relatable. His big thing, his big quest and triumph in the original trilogy was redeeming his father from the dark side and defeating the Emperor. That had large personal implications for Luke and large implications for the galaxy as a whole. And then he goes on to train the next generation of Jedi, thinking he's conquered this great evil. Well, nothing can stop him. Then one of his own students falls to the dark side. That student takes more students with them to evil while killing the rest of Luke's students. Anyone would probably be bummed out by that. Add to that, this was Luke's own nephew, a blood relative. Hat trick, the third kind of stab at Luke here. Luke thinks it was his fault, and it kind of is, but so just given all that, it made perfect sense to me in the context of the story that Luke would be bummed out, that he would see how the Jedi are arrogant or too full of themselves in the prequels, and that's how Darth Sidious was able to defeat them, and now he's repeated their mistakes of thinking he could train the next generation of Jedi, and he was so blind that he couldn't see that his own nephew would follow the dark side, and yada, yada, yada. It made a lot of sense to me, and then like, okay, so yes, you think that you've learned from the past, and then nope, you still get your ass kicked too. And him closing himself off from the Force and being down the dumps and needing a pep talk from Yoda, that just made a lot of sense to me. And I was very surprised at how many people were disheartened or disappointed that that's how Luke was handled. But how he acted and his reaction to what he had been through, to me, was just very human and relatable, and kind of helped drive home the message of the movie of learning from failure and not letting it destroy you completely. And Luke did pick himself up, and then at the end had a large impact on the end of the movie because he did kind of rise above it and get back into the Force. So I like what they did with Luke. I was very surprised at how many people were upset by that. There were certainly things that didn't work for me in The Last Jedi. I wanted to touch on those. Some of the humor fell flat. I think a lot of these studios know that Marvel has a good thing going with this formula, and a part of that formula is the wit and humor. A lot of people really like that. It felt like some of that was trying to be kind of shared or imported into this movie. Like in the beginning when like Hux and Poe Dameron, they're kind of quipping back and forth. It felt almost Marvel-esque, but it didn't even land in the theater. And this was like premiere night, like when the theater's gonna laugh and clap and like cry very loudly at everything. And these jokes were just really kind of missing the mark. I think that's kind of pervasive through a lot of the humor throughout. Some of the humor lands, a lot of it doesn't. A bigger issue I really have overall is, I think, one a lot of people have. It's the Finn and Rose plot, everything with the casino planet and the father, the horse alien things with the big bunny ears. Didn't care for that at all. Them riding these creatures away from the big casino area, like near to the woods, with this kind of we freed the animals component message going on, to me was probably the most tonally dissonant part of the movie. Didn't really care for that. I have a whole video talking about Finn and him being a former stormtrooper, not really impacting his character or much in this movies, and that's such a wasted opportunity. It wasn't The Force Awakens, and it is in this movie. Later on, a big part is they expressly remind us, hey, you were a stormtrooper, so you can help us get around the Star Destroyer. At least I think that's what they say, or I hope they do, because otherwise these movies seem to forget that Finn was a stormtrooper. Anyway, so they're going around a Star Destroyer, and I think they should have had Finn and Rose just go directly to the Star Destroyer, cut the casino planet, and you can use Finn's history as a stormtrooper to make this adventure or sneak around mission very interesting. Maybe he has to put the stormtrooper armor back on, and he has some conflict or trauma associated with that. Maybe he runs into some old stormtrooper buddies and they recognize him. And I just all these things that could have been very interesting or cool related to him being a stormtrooper. None of it's used. It's said expressly when it's to remind us that, oh, they can get around the Star Destroyer because he used to be a stormtrooper. But apart from that, both of these movies so far just kind of forget that that's what his origin was. It doesn't impact him. He was a stormtrooper like 5 seconds in The Force Awakens, and then they just drop it. So up to me, you cut the casino and just have this cool sneak around on the Star Destroyer subplot with Finn and Rose and BB-8. I think tying in Finn's stormtrooper roots would have really upped this movie quite a bit. It's kind of way lower level, like below like plot and structure or whatever, and it's really the Space Leia. I understand this is a fictional movie between the lightsabers and the Force and a lot of the aliens and how some of the ships work. So why my suspension of disbelief didn't last for this one thing, I don't have a good reason. Some people, their suspension of disbelief, they're good. They can accept, oh, it's fiction. It doesn't matter. Some people are just very nitpicky at anything. And for whatever irrational or rational, whatever reason, a woman being conscious enough to use the Force and fly through space without a suit or anything, that was for me the moment that pulled me out. I do not know why that was my reality breaking, that wouldn't happen moment, but it was that. That's the one thing I can think of that even on my first viewing when I was so excited to be there, I really got pulled out and needed a few minutes to be like, okay, they're moving on. Stop thinking about it. But Space Leia, again, really just low level, not even a long part of the movie, but that definitely diminished the overall experience for me. Like I said, I was going to talk about how all this ties into episode 9 and how I think it's going to impact that. I think it's no big secret that there's a lot of people that really did not like The Last Jedi. I liked it for all the reasons I just gave, but there's a lot of people that don't think Snoke should have been killed. Rey's parents should and possibly could be someone that gets corrected in episode 9. They don't like how Luke was handled. And there's a host of other issues people have with this film that we could talk or whatever all day about. I think this has big implications, though, for how Lucasfilm is managing the property, how they're making movies and shows, and that you can see now in Solo and The Mandalorian. So starting with Solo, I think everyone knows about the production problems it had, and a big one was them changing directors like halfway into making the movie. The original directors were Chris Miller and Phil Lord, who directed 2122 Jump Street, the Lego Movie, and Into the Spider-Verse, which are all great and very, very funny. I love all those. They obviously have their own very unique style and sense of humor that's very present and felt in the movie, and it makes it very enjoyable and lighthearted. And so I was very excited for just a goofy-ass Star Wars movie. Disney execs, notably Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote the script for Solo and The Empire Strikes Back, so the man does have some pull here, saw what they were doing, and they did not like it one bit. They didn't like how goofy and silly it was. They wanted a more serious space adventure. So they get fired and brought in Ron Howard. And I just kind of see a parallel here of you have Rian Johnson, who, as far as I've read, had a lot of creative liberties, and we got a movie and product that felt obviously very stylized and different from a typical Star Wars movie. The Force Awakens was very much a parallel of A New Hope. That's fine. It was kind of a soft reboot of Star Wars. It was a safe but good movie. I like that one too. The Last Jedi stood out in style and what it did. Obviously, the big plot points it hits. You could feel Rian Johnson working in that. So I can't help but feel that the negative reaction to The Last Jedi, maybe not, has something to do with getting rid of these two directors who were bringing a lot of style to Solo and replacing them with Ron Howard. And then we got a Solo movie that's fine, but I would call safe and kind of unremarkable. Not bad. I enjoyed watching in theater, and then I happily rewatched it when it came out on Netflix. I think it could have been better, and I would have really liked to see a goofy, stylized Star Wars movie we've gotten with Lord Miller. The Mandalorian, I think kind of the same thing. I know there's different directors for each episode. One of them is Taika Waititi, who, like Lord and Miller, has a very unique sense of humor. I think it's very Monty Python-esque. I love what we do in the shadows. You kind of feel it a bit in Thor Ragnarok. But overall, with The Mandalorian, I think overall is going to be kind of unremarkable and forgettable. Not bad, but unremarkable. I have enjoyed watching The Mandalorian. It looks great. I love the armor. I've never been obsessed with Mandalorians. I know there's a whole subclass of Star Wars fans that they're obsessed with Mandos. They probably love all the world building they're getting. I think it's fine. I just think when this show's over, I'm kind of okay with that being it, and I'm not really interested in rewatching it. Again, not bad. It just feels very safe, and that's what I think with Solo. And both of these things came out after all this backlash with The Last Jedi. And now, if you see the director they went with for Rise of Skywalker, they're going back to J.J. Abrams, who gave us a safe start with Force Awakens. Safe doesn't equal bad, but sometimes I think it comes at the cost of something unique or stylized, or maybe ultimately something that could be better. I'm fine with JJ, given that the other director was Colin Trevor, who you can go through his film history on IMDb or whatever. If you really, really want to know why this man, Colin Trevor, was taken off Episode 9, you can read about it probably. Way more entertaining to watch it, I promise you. The Book of Henry. Very, very bizarre. And it cost this man directing a Star Wars movie, and they brought JJ back. So again, maybe something gained there, but it makes you wonder though if they had maybe found someone a little more competent with a little sense of style. What could we be getting instead? So for whatever reason, Palpatine has blown up recently in popularity. To me, he's kind of in the same camp as Snoke, where he's closer to an obstacle than a character. He dresses all in black, cackles about how much he likes power, and wants to control everything. And that's great. It's fine to watch. People love Ian McDiarmid's performance. It's great. Again, and a lot of people point that as like one of the shining best things about the prequels is watching Ian McDiarmid just enjoy being evil and laughing and all that. That's fine. Again, it's just I'm not sure how what that says for movie quality or really the industry if scripts and stories and ideas are being shaped around upvotes or likes. Or I'm not an industry expert at all. I didn't go to film school. My degree's in economics, so that has obviously nothing to do with movies or the entertainment industry. This is all the opinions of someone who likes Star Wars and likes movies. I just can't imagine that's a great thing, really, for how movies get made if it's tailored around not even just social media, but like to me, tailored around like memes or pictures that are funny online. Right, because I mean, really, you do want your movie to be trending. You probably with a lot of big blockbusters, you do want to do market research into what is going to get clicks, what grabs people's attention. But when you're like writing your script based around I am the Senate memes or just like funny pictures that are really, just that they're jokes, and it's weird for me to think of big important people in like Hollywood studios creating their products based solely around these just dumb internet jokes. I'm sure it happens. We have an emoji movie that I'm sure we're all very familiar with the fact that exists. So I don't know. Again, just my opinion. I'm sure it'll be fine. Like I said, I think it's going to be safe. I think that does come at the expense of it maybe being interesting or doing things differently. I think that Lucasfilm is nervous for this to be just a safe smash hit, home run, whatever, after how The Last Jedi was received. I'm sure it's going to do very well either way. I bought tickets to opening night, and Fandango kept crashing, so I know lots of you were trying to do the same thing as well. So I can't wait to talk about it after, and may the Force be with you.